Hi, I'm John Byrne with Poets and Quants. I'm here at the Ross School of Business with the Dean, Scott DeRue. Welcome.
Thank you, John.
So you have something really exciting coming soon. It's an online MBA program.
We are thrilled.
And you're the first top 10 ranked business school in the country to have an online option. Tell me why you decided to do an online program.
Well, thank you first and foremost for being here, and we are indeed really excited about this online MBA. We chose to do it really for three reasons. One is access, and what I mean by access in this case is reach. We know there are many people around the country in this case that want access to a top-tier MBA education who don't have the opportunity to uproot their family and move to any particular location for that top 10 MBA program, as you mentioned. And so being able to go to them as opposed to them expecting to come to us is one of access and reach. The second reason that we went in this direction was flexibility. If you think about the return on investment in an MBA, it's one thing to dive headfirst into a full-time program, but we also know there are many working professionals who, for a whole variety of reasons, will continue working and during their education and need access to this world-class business education and MBA offering as they continue to work. And so that flexibility matters a great deal. And then thirdly is we're preparing students for a digital world. For working in enterprises and with enterprises virtually all across the globe. And so being able to innovate and adapt our business education and our curriculum to really fit that digital world came together to also meet these needs of access and flexibility.
Yeah, that all makes sense. The other thing about being a top-ranked program is you draw top-ranked applicants. And I know that, the application period has been open. It's still not closed for your first cohort in the fall. What kind of applications are you seeing?
We're seeing tremendous demand, actually, and what I'm really excited about is the level of talent that we're seeing. So in part-time MBA programs, you often draw from your region because people have to drive and go on the weekends, et cetera. And in this case, we're certainly seeing a high number of regional-based applicants, but we're also seeing applicants from investment banks and consulting firms on the East Coast. We're seeing folks from companies like Tesla from the West Coast apply to the program, and that's something that we as a business school in Ann Arbor, Michigan wouldn't see in our part-time programs naturally.
Right.
And that's an example of us expanding access and reach to going to them. But the level of talent in the applicants that we're seeing thus far is exceptional. The numbers are right on pace with what we expected, and so we're really excited.
That's terrific. So Scott, what will make the Ross Online MBA different from others in the market?
Well, John, it's a great question, and this was the challenge that we set for our team, is we wanted this to be a unique offering in the marketplace and uniquely Michigan Ross. And so what that meant to us was first the brand that you mentioned. We are the only top 10 MBA program in the online MBA space, and brand matters. As students think about what programs they are going to go to, they want to go to the best programs that they can go to. So brand is certainly a point of differentiation. The second point of differentiation is rockstar faculty. We are using the same exact faculty in our online MBA as we do in our top-ranked MBA program that's residential. And not all of the MBA programs that have online offerings are using their same top faculty. And so we think access to the real thought leaders that are shaping the most important conversations in business, who are unbelievable educators, access to those rockstar faculty is going to be a point of differentiation. And then thirdly is the action-based experiential education that has defined this place, Michigan Ross, for so many years. We're actually weaving into the online MBA in really substantive and profound ways. So everything from the synchronous sessions that students will be engaged in with faculty and fellow students are going to be much more active in their orientation than you would naturally expect. We're having our MAP program, which is essentially our consulting projects, that is really a signature experience of our residential full-time MBA program. That is going to be a signature experience of our online MBA, where these students will be working with faculty, with leading companies all around the globe, essentially doing consulting projects on the issues that are of the most strategic importance to those firms. And they'll be working virtually, as we do in our organizations all of the time, as do these professionals who will be in the program.
Sure.
And so they're learning not only the teamwork and leadership skills to work in virtual environments, but they're getting to work on the most important issues with the leading companies as part of the MAP program that'll be a signature part of this experience. And then the residencies. So the program, in some sense, would be described as hybrid. Yep. In that much of it is online, but they will come to campus several times and have these extended residencies for something short of a week, right? So 3, 4, 5 days. And the first residency will be a leadership residency, and it's really based on our leadership crisis challenge. That has become a signature experience in our other MBA programs, where students work together to navigate a crisis and a leadership challenge that their company is facing, and they have to interact with real board members and real journalists, and it's a really immersive experience. And then we'll wrap the leadership education around that. And so it's not just let's come to campus and have another class. Right. It's really come to campus and immerse yourself in an experience that you can't get in that online form. Another residency will focus on innovation and how you innovate from within to create value for your organization. Another residency will focus on transformation. How do you lead large-scale transformation in really complex enterprises? But these are really experiential pieces of the student learning experience that I think are really going to set this program apart.
So it sounds like you're taking very important aspects of your full-time program and importing them into the online experience. So in other words, rather than just do something that's purely online, you're trying to make it as much aligned with the distinguishing features of your full-time program in the virtual program.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And all the way from the admissions process and the admissions standard, right? So we are maintaining our standard in terms of the type and quality of student and the culture that we've become known for in our residential full-time program. The student experience, the faculty, the learning experience, even access to things like career services and career development and professional development. All of that is exactly the same. Yet we get the access, the reach, the flexibility that you would naturally expect in a part-time program. And we can serve students from all across the United States in doing that.
And obviously you're going to have to do some tweaks. Like, I wonder if, in fact, your action-based learning project, will you break the academic calendar as you do in your full-time MBA program? Or will this be an aside project while you're taking other courses in the online option?
It'll be woven through, and depending on the cadence of the curriculum and the schedule, more time dedicated to the projects and so forth. And so it'll really depend on the students, because one of the things we really wanted the experience to be is highly personalized. Mm-hmm. And so you and I might be in the program at the same time, but the cadence and the path that we take through the program is curated to our needs and the pace at which we want to go. And so depending on the pace and the path that you choose, it might look a little different than mine, but that's by design because we want it to be highly personalized to you and your needs versus me and my needs.
In addition to the in-residence sessions, and I wonder how many of them are required in the program, will you also have, obviously, live classes online?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So the residencies, there are 3 that are required as part of the program.
Can you take more?
As we scale the program and build in new residencies, we expect the portfolio to grow. At launch, we're beginning with these 3 around innovation, transformation, and leadership. Right. Certainly, I think the portfolio would grow over time as we do that. But the 3 required are a core part of the experience, plus the MAP. right?
Right.
Plus the map
Yeah.
project that you're working on.
Which could possibly also require an in-residence kind of thing, right, or not?
So we're not thinking that the MAP project would require in-residence to begin with.
Okay.
It's a virtual team, just like many consulting
Right.
organizations operate today, where
Indeed.
there are team members in the U.S., there are team members in Europe and Asia and South America, wherever you may be, and you're all working together. We're doing the exact same thing
Right.
here. In terms of your question around the online live sessions, if you think about the online MBA experience, what you have is you have asynchronous content, right? So this is content that you will consume, and don't just think video content of a professor like me talking at you. It could be assessments, it could be simulations, but it's not live. You can do it on your own time at your own pace, okay? So that's asynchronous content. Then there's the residential pieces and the experiential pieces that we've talked about. And then in the middle sits the live synchronous class sessions. And this is, traditionally, historically, what happens in a classroom. Right? We're building the classroom of the future. It's going to be this immersive experience where you actually feel like you're in a room with 40 or 50 of your best friends and an amazingly talented faculty member, right? And you're having this live session. That classroom of the future, we're building a whole new platform for this, and a studio that will allow our faculty to interact with the students, and importantly, the students to interact with the other students in really interactive and immersive ways. Even things like three-dimensional content, where you could see a supply chain of a particular organization in three dimensions, so that you could actually understand how it's operating and how the flows are moving. So we're really excited about those live sessions. We think with our faculty and the talent we're putting in that room, both student and faculty, those live sessions are going to be a lot of fun and a great learning experience.
How often will they occur?
It depends on the course, but each course will essentially have a handful, let's say 4, live sessions associated with it, coupled with that asynchronous content that is the lecture content, the simulations, the assessments, and so forth. You put those 4 live sessions together with that asynchronous content, and that's a course.
Right. How do you deliver career services in an online environment? There's a general assumption that if you want to accelerate your career, meaning not switch careers, a part-time or online option is great for you. And that if you want to switch careers, it may be less desirable. What's your view on that?
So I think there are, especially for this market, right? Remember, we're focused here on working professionals who are really after the flexibility and access to a top-ranked MBA education. And so what we see in that market is several different paths. One is students who want to accelerate in the path that they're already on.
Right.
And that's certainly a segment of the population. There are segments that want to stay in the same industry, but maybe change organizations. Okay? And then there's a third segment where they want to change industry, potentially role or function, maybe even geography. Okay? So if we go with the segment that wants to accelerate, really what they're looking for is the business fundamentals and the tools that come with a top-ranked MBA education, right? With the coaching and support, the mentorship, the social network that's going to help them accelerate within whatever function or industry they're already in.
Right.
Okay. That market is a little bit easier to support from a career development perspective because they're already in the space they want to be in.
Yeah.
Okay. The second segment, where they want to stay in the same general space but maybe change organizations. So there, so every student who goes through this program will have dedicated career and professional development support. Okay, so think coaching, mentoring, advising from our staff. Okay, just like we would provide for our full-time students, our executive MBAs, and so forth.
So even before they enter the program, you know what bucket they're going to be in.
We at least will ask.
Yeah.
And they will likely have a sense, though we certainly find that students will change which bucket they're in as they go through the program, which is perfectly okay.
Sure.
Okay. So every one of these will have dedicated support. If you're in that second bucket or the third bucket who wants to change industry, function, role, having access to the hundreds of companies that come through the Michigan Ross School of Business every year is essential, right? You want, even if you're not on campus, you still want to be able to interact with these companies so that you can learn about them, have access to the career and job opportunities that are in them. And so we made a choice very early on in the design of this new online MBA to provide the same level of access to what happens from a career and recruiting perspective here on campus for our online students. Now, how we deliver that and how we connect those students to the companies, that will of course change because we can't expect students from California or New York to be in Ann Arbor at all times.
Sure.
So we're having to change how we do those connections, but the commitment is the same, and that's really important.
Plus, in an online program, you can have just-in-time hiring. I mean, full-time MBA program, you've got June, July, and August, right? But now, if you know someone wants to switch careers and it's January and you have them in your program, they can switch careers and continue the rest of the program.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so there's the students who may not be in the same cycle as, say, your traditional residential full-time MBA.
Yep.
It's also true that companies, many of the companies have defined hiring and intake processes, right? They take in students full-time from maybe July to September.
Yeah.
But many companies are finding, just because of the demand and need for talent, that it doesn't work to only bring in MBAs for full-time jobs between July and September, right? So what about January? And so we've had companies, when we were doing a lot of the market research and discovery work for this program, one of the populations that we talked with was all the companies that we work with.
Right.
To get input and feedback from them on what would they expect to see in a program like this, what would they want to see out of the students, understand these hiring patterns, and a number of the companies, and some of the companies that everybody would love to work for, the Amazons of the world, made this exact same point. That what if we need talent in January or February or March? How does that work?
Right.
And in the traditional system, it doesn't. And here we'll have more flexibility, and we'll build capacity to have a more, say, 12-month career and professional development system through this online MBA, which we're really excited about. The students are really excited about, and of course the companies are as well.
So your first cohort, what are you aiming for in terms of size?
The goal in year one is 60 students. Could be a little less, could be a little more, but something in that neighborhood. And then we expect by year 3 to be at roughly 120 or so. Again, could be a little less, could be a little more. And right now, our projection is that's roughly the steady state.
Okay.
It could grow depending on what we see in terms of demand. But we are going after high quality students, putting our very best faculty with them. And we don't expect to be in a market where we're serving thousands and thousands of students. That's not the design of this. We want the learning experience here, again, to be very hands-on, very experiential, very active. We want it to be highly personalized. We also want it, we really believe in the power of peer-to-peer learning and that social learning that happens among students.
Yep.
And if you try to fill a program like this with just thousands and thousands of students, you don't really build the network and that peer-to-peer learning. And so we're building what I would call sort of modest-sized cohorts where you really get to know each other.
Yep.
Just like you would in, say, a section of a full-time MBA program, or in an executive MBA program, or a weekend MBA program where you're together, you really build relationships. Many people assume that in an online MBA environment, you're not going to build those relationships. We're taking the exact opposite approach. How do we leverage technology to connect people that otherwise would not connect? All extremely motivated, talented people. And I expect that with those numbers, the platform that we're building, students are going to graduate from this program with lifelong relationships in place, both professional and personal, that you wouldn't get in any other online MBA.
Yeah, and those relationships would be cemented during the in-resident sessions, during the experiential projects that you're working on with your classmates, and during the live sessions as well.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So Scott, how does this fit into your overall digital learning strategy for the future of Ross? I imagine that you're going to learn a lot by going through this program that's actually going to come back into the face-to-face classroom.
That's exactly right. I mean, so I would say there are two ways in which it's going to fit into a broader digital strategy, digital education strategy for the school. And if you look at top-ranked schools, we're taking slightly different approaches. So, but I think we're all likely going to end converging in some common space. Mm-hmm. So if you look at schools like Harvard Business School or Stanford or Wharton, where their beginning is in the non-degree space. Right? So they're offering certificates of various forms and flavors. And we are too. We're doing some of that. We've been experimenting in that world for now a handful of years. We've got, I think, the world's most popular finance course, and my colleague and I have a leadership online course that's certificate-based, right? Mm-hmm. So we have some experiments there. As you noted earlier, we're the only top 10 school to offer the degree, the online MBA. And so we're really starting in that degree space. We're making a big, bold investment in that online MBA up front. And that's going to do two things for us. It's going to accelerate the degree to which we can move into the non-degree space, because you've built up the capacity and the assets, the digital assets, that can then be rebundled and coupled in different ways to create new and interesting certificates and non-degrees that potentially build up to degrees in the future. I mean, you could imagine all sorts of possibilities there. And so we expect to, just like what happened in music, we expect to sort of disaggregate that bundle into its modules, if you will, and rebundle those in very interesting ways in the future.
So to use an old metaphor, I can buy the album if I want the degree, or I can buy whatever tune appeals to me.
Precisely.
Through exec ed.
Precisely. Yeah. Precisely. And we're already seeing companies sign on and work with us. We're doing for a Fortune 50 company right now, their design thinking and innovation leadership education for all of their senior executives. And we're doing a lot of that in the residential space. And the question they asked was, how do we cascade this down to tens of thousands of people, right? Yeah. So that we're operating off of a common language system. And so we're actually using our non-degree certificate bundles to serve that market in new and interesting ways. Yep. So I think that's going to be a direction that we head, that the Harvard Business School and Wharton and Stanford have already, that's where they're beginning. And we'll move in that direction and have already started. But to your point, what's also happening is because of what we're learning in the online MBA degree space, we're now able to take what we're learning there and bring it into our full-time residential spaces. So, for example, the technologies that we're building to personalize the education. So you and I may come from very similar backgrounds. We come into the same MBA program, but we have completely different aspirations, different needs, different preferences. And the same tools and technologies that we're building to serve our online MBA students, who are very diverse in terms of backgrounds, we can now apply and bring over to our residential programs. Really excited about that. Our faculty, they're in production right now for their courses, right? And the number of them who have come to me and said, I will never teach my in-person residential course the same way, is nearly every single one of them.
It is amazing. I hear this again and again.
Yeah. And it's because you have to think about, I think what it is you have to think about the student and the learner in a different way. And our faculty are now curating experiences in the residential courses that are leveraging what they're learning in the online MBA in ways that we think are going to elevate and enhance the learning outcomes for our students. And if we see a greater, more positive impact on our students in our residential programs, then this investment, if it never grows beyond 120 students a year, is worth its weight in gold.
And that process apparently occurs because everything you teach online has to be connected to a direct learning outcome.
That's exactly right.
So it makes you really think hard about what you're delivering, what you're not delivering, and making sure that you're delivering the stuff that's going to lead to that outcome.
That's right. You start with the goal in mind, right?
Yes.
We always
Right.
say in business, start with why and start with the end in mind. And here, from a learning perspective, we generally do that as faculty, but it forces a rigor around starting with the end in mind. What's the outcome that I want to drive? What's the capability that I'm trying to build in this learner, in this student? And then working backwards from that in a really rigorous way. And that principle or that philosophy or way of thinking is, before we even finish production, is finding its way into our residential courses in all of our programs, which is really exciting.
That's terrific. Well, thank you for letting us know about the online MBA program. Obviously, the first cohort starts this fall. You'll be 60 in number and scale up from there. And I have a sense that it's going to transform a lot of different things in the school.
Yeah, we're really excited. Thank you very much.
Scott, a pleasure.
Always.
This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.